Good morning. I'd like to call the Executive Committee meeting to order for Tuesday, June 27th. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess? Present. Ms. Polk? She was there. Ms. Weber? Present. Ms. Parker? Present. Mr. Fairfield? Present. Mr. Seroy? Mr. Carrico? Present. Mr. Featherling? Present. Mr. Miller? Mr. Long? Present. Mr. Eckhoff? Mr. Hunter? Present. Ms. Foster? Present. Mr. Wheeler?
Present.
Mr. Alexander Hildebrand? Present. We have a quorum.
Alrighty, don't see any public comment today. Approval of the minutes from May 23rd, 2023. Is there a motion there? Ms. Parker, Mr. Hunter, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You know, I guess I don't know how to sum up this whole legislative session, but we do have somebody here who might be able to sum it up into a couple of words. It's our lobbyist, Steve Quigley. So his agreement is on the board. I didn't know if there was anything under legislative that if you would rather wait until we discuss his extension of his agreement, or if you would like to hear kind of a thought of what might have went on in session right now. It's up to you. Would you rather wait? All right, Steve?
Yeah, you'd like.
Yeah, you can sit back there. You can stand at the mics. You can come up here next.
I'll stand here.
Okay.
Is it on?
Yes.
Can you all hear me? Hi, Steve Quigley. So, Chairman Wheeler asked me to talk a little bit about the session. As you know, we're trying to pass Senate Bill 1424, which would allow the county to charge a municipal fee or a court fee for civil court and to impact saving money so you can redo your courthouses and the facilities and what have you, come into compliance with all the things. This type of legislation has been passed before. We were going swimmingly along with Senate Bill 1424 when one of the caucuses put a brick on it in the Senate. So to that end, working with Senator Joyce, we had the ability to, instead of passing this legislation, get about $6 million for the county to do some of the things and kickstart the program. That in itself is probably a better win, because I think we can still get this legislation passed. There are other counties who now want to get involved and they were part of the, Senator Joyce allowed them to amend it, and I think that's probably what kind of hung it up. He did the right thing by allowing other counties to do it, I believe. The bill is reverted back to assignments committee, but it's not dead. As they say in Springfield, nothing's ever dead until they adjourn, sine, die. So, which is all, you know, that's the old joke about protecting your taxes. So, also, as you all watched the last few weeks of the session, the state of Illinois passed the biggest budget that they've ever passed. There was, the last few days, there were 3 iterations of the budget that were originally agreed to, and one of the big hang-ups was the governor has a desire, and the Hispanic Caucus also wanted to see an expansion of healthcare services for immigration, people who were without status, I guess is the way to put it. He wanted to expand it to below age 42. But the original program started 2 years ago, came in at about $700 million over budget at $1.2 billion. They were estimating it at about $450 million. Those are extra dollars that are just not available for other things to happen. So when that occurred this year, monies that might have gone for other projects, now that they're going to get, I think, about another additional $400 million for that program, but that's just going to get them to paying what they've already expanded to in the first place, because of I think they didn't do their homework thinking that there would be as many people who would sign up as did. So it really burdened the system. Not that it's a bad thing one way or another, it just overburdened the system, and they did not expect that many people to sign up. So the governor's been wearing that the last couple of days, if you've seen some stuff in the paper or what have you. There was increases in the budget for education. There was increases in the budget for public safety. There was increases in the budget for road and transportation things. A lot of transportation dollars were out there. They also reappropriated, and I think Kankakee County was the benefit of that, and the city of Kankakee reappropriating money that was not expended from previous year's budgets or the previous year's budget. So typically, in a budget year, say they give you $1 million and you've got a project, if that project stalls out for some reason, the governor's office and the budgeteers have the ability, if they want to, say, if that project is not moving, that's why they call it, quote, shovel ready. They want to see shovels in the ground. They don't want you to come back and say, well, we're still working on phase 1 engineering for a project, when something that could have been shovel ready and expended those amounts of dollars that were already put out there. That's why once you get a project and you get money for it, getting a purchase order and getting it going in the system, wherever it be at IDOT or DNR, whomever you're taking that money from, DCEO, get that in the system. It's very important, because that shows them that your organization, whatever it may be, is interested in spending those monies as fast as possible. So they could have come back and swept those monies if they wanted to, but they did not. So most of those projects stayed on the books, which is a really good thing for not just Kankakee County, but any county and general municipality, because sometimes they get hung up and you only spent maybe maybe you spent $200,000 on a $1.2 million project, but at least you're moving towards expending those money, because they don't want to budget something and then 5-6 years later that money is just still sitting on the books and not being spent. So, but I'm happy to try and answer any questions. I don't, it's a 4,400 page budget, and I was continually trying to go through to make sure our stuff for Kankakee was staying in the budget, and it did. But I think I originally texted Chairman Wheeler. I said, hey, look at page 3,500. Okay, now look at the page 3,580. And it just kept moving. But the dollar amount didn't change, so that was a good thing. So.
Well, I appreciate all the hard work. I got to experience that when we were out there, running around when we first got through committee with that
Sure.
with that bill, which we thought it was going to fly through, and then the wood chipper showed up. They backed it up to the front door and they chucked us in it. So I will say that the $6 million was a nice switch for you and the senator to go that route, and it will help a lot. Now we're just trying to plan on where that goes in the scope of the total project, if you will. So
Right.
Is there any questions about a process, Tenor in Springfield? He's there. He sees it for the good, bad, and the ugly. He's there. So now's the time. Mr. Hunter?
Steve, I'm pleased with your report regarding the $6 million. I know I've had a conversation with Senator Joyce along with Chairman Wheeler regarding the plans. Seems like Chairman Wheeler is always ahead of the game in terms of discussing what he wants to do, his plans. He bounces stuff off you for feedback, any amendments to his concerns or his plans. We appreciate that. One particular matter that may not be before the county, but have you heard anything about any legislation about any hydroelectric plants? I know that Mayor Curtis, City of Kankakee, wants to get that hydroelectric plant up and running. And I know I had a conversation with Senator Joyce about some legislation he was trying to work on regarding funding and allocation of funds for hydroelectric plants. Have you heard anything about that at all?
There was an omnibus energy bill, but I don't think that was 100% included in there. I think it was more of a study that was part of that. And Representative Walsh from Will County, I think he had some of that in there. They're also doing some other studies as well. I do kind of have an energy background, having worked for a major utility for about 6 years. As everybody knows, they're trying to go clean and green, and hydroelectric is one of those mechanisms to do that. I can tell you that it's an expensive way to go nowadays versus the other things that are out there. But if it's practical, then it's practical. It's all about the dollars that make sense. And sometimes if there's federal subsidies to get these things started and what have you, then maybe it is. But I think that was part of one of the energy packages that was put out there.
Keep us abreast on that, because that's
I'll take a look and find out.
Our turbines, City of Kankakee turbines, are up in I think Michigan. And I know that's a good source of revenue that the City of Kankakee can derived from their energy that would be generated from the hydroelectric plant. So,
Well, you guys are getting a considerable amount of solar out here too.
oh yeah,
There,
oh yeah.
probably more solar than wind. Is that not true? Currently under the current
Currently.
configuration? Yeah,
Currently,
yeah. So,
And there's other things that, you know, I know out east in Rosemary's district, you know, they're considering some solar out in Pembroke as well too, with the property that was allocated for the prison, which Blagojevich, you know, I got ladies here. But anyway, he took that off the board, so I'm pleased that they're in discussions regarding that too, so. Thank you.
perfect. Again, if there's questions, you know, funnel them through Andy, or I'll be sticking around here, but happy to answer anything afterwards or whatever. So, thank you.
thanks.
Thanks, Chairman.
I see things as down there as we're sitting in a good position because of our representation down there, but it's pretty dysfunctional. What's going on there, though, the supermajority is definitely doesn't bode well for open, honest discussion of issues. And unfortunately, I think the House went that direction. The Senate seems more collegial. That's just my own assessment of spending time down there. So that's moving on to information services. Mr. Duval. Sure, yeah.
I can see most of you are the same members that are in the buildings and grounds, so I don't want to repeat myself. As we spoke at last buildings and grounds, our big project will be the RFP for the new phone system. I don't know that I need to go over that again. We talked extensively about that. I had an RFP roughly drafted since January. We hope to put that out here in July. We're gonna send it up to the 5th floor, let them take a look at it, and send it to the state's attorney for their, then hopefully get that out. We'd like to start moving on with it. We'd like to make sure that we replace the existing system. And for everybody to understand what we're doing here, it's less, while we want to be really cost conscious, it's just time. We have to get onto a new infrastructure. We have to throw out our old one. Everything's working now, but it's always a hassle to keep going. There's certain things that break down all the time, and we need to be on a new standard so it's easy to replace the parts. In short, once the RFP comes out, we know if we got local vendors, we got vendors that they're going to compete for it. We want them to aggressively price it, but make no mistake, this is about changing the infrastructure. We're going to new technology. Each phone's going to cost more than the previous phones cost. The systems will cost more, but we're going to try to keep it in a reasonable amount. But we also want to make sure we go back to centralizing it for at least the 3 buildings where we can control it, where the 5th floor and the finance department and IT department knows what's going on, as opposed to individual departments purchasing stuff and then the county's just obligated to pay the fees that come later, because the fees are actually what costs you the most later on. So that needs to get control of. But in short, I don't know if anybody has any questions or.
No, it's pretty clear. Once that process happens, then would be open in finance. They would decide whether that's something that they're going to vote to fund at that point and identify the funding stream. I think we had talked about allocating ARPA dollars towards this, because we still would have, and that's what can it legally be used for, one of the uses. So that's kind of where we were going, but that may change based on what the bids come back in. So that'll be up to finance and things like that. Any other questions? No? You hearing all good things from the Tyler project?
It's going well. I talk to Jason probably every day. They're back to aggressively training. They're also working heavily on the probation module that they're moving forward. I think previously that would slow down a little bit, but they're they're working, and that's moving at a much faster pace from what Jason recently told me. That so that I don't think we ever had any thoughts that there actually would be any issues, but once a couple of them came up, they're being handled. They're going through item per item to make sure everything transfers. So Jason has complete confidence that that's going to go well. He's gone over there, held hands to make sure they understood. He's probably daily in some kind of video meeting talking between Tyler and the various departments. So that's moving well.
Sure. Well, like we talked, our data is our data. If you need some help shaking that tree, you just let me know. Sometimes vendors like to hold on to data, legacy vendors. So, any other thoughts, questions for Kevin? All right, thanks, Kevin. Health Department. Looks like Amy LaFine is here today. Bringing in
Good
the
morning.
ringer.
Mr. Beavis was unable to attend this morning. I'm Amy LaFine. I'm the Director of Client Services at the Health Department, and it is my pleasure to represent the Health Department this morning. You have in your packet Mr. Beavis's report. I want to be considerate of your time, so I'll just review some highlights. We reported on our adolescent clinic that we held this last Saturday. We had 25 adolescents come through for physicals. You also have our current outreach efforts there. John gave you an overview of the focus on our current grant applications. On June 1st, we were honored to receive the Journal Progress Award for Social Service Innovator in our community. We also gave you an update on the IRIS tool implementation. That's the Integrated Referral Information System or Intake System. We actually visited Will County, who currently has this tool implemented, to kind of go over their policies and procedures. Our contract is in the final stages. Once we get that contract back, we'll be ready to implement and launch that tool in our community, which will connect all of our agencies for referral and close the loop. We're very grateful to have that funded. And lastly, the Kankakee County Health Department parking lot is almost complete. They're marking parking spaces today, and thank you, Chairman Wheeler and the board, for approving that funding to us. 911 also appreciates it. Any questions for me regarding Health Department activities? Thank you.
Sorry, I know there was something I was going to ask about. Apologize. Oh, your good beta test group for the IRIS system. Everybody who was awarded a social service grant from the county must be part of the IRIS system in order to receive that. So we'll get you that list. That could be your first, yeah, guinea pigs, if you will, just to get them in there and what kind of training. I was just mentioning that. I forgot. Yep. I don't know if people know what this tool is. We mandated its use because part of the issues that we saw on social services is that there's a lot of gaps between them. Referrals happen, but people don't show up to those other referrals. And so it's a appointment setting, referral setting tool that the place that's sending the individual can see if they ever showed up at the other place. It's a big deal because then you start to identify, well, I don't have steady transportation. Well, then you get bus tokens or whatever to people that need rides to get where they're going. Or, hey, I had a conflict. Couldn't get there because of, I have something going on in my home area. And, so then there's a service that could be hooked up that would help bridge that gap too. So it's more robust than just the IRIS system. It's actually a key for everybody working together. I don't know if you feel the same way, but when that's pretty much it. So, and for 3 years, and I hope it lasts a lot longer. Let's see, schools. Frank Petkunis, I don't see your Frank here. Quarterly report for the superintendent of schools. Motion to accept and put on file. Mr. Fairfield, second Mr. Long. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. VAC, do we have Karen here today? Anyone VAC? Nope. Motion to accept the monthly report on file for the VAC. Ms. Weber, second. Go with Mr. Fairfield. Sorry, Mr. Featherling. There he goes. We'll get him in today. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same side. Motion carries. County Administrator Anita Speckman.
Good morning.
Rosemary.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So this morning, our current job posting listing is 8 current openings. It is the lowest we have had in over 2 years. Concurrent with that issue, now again, I mentioned it last month, I want to make sure that you understand that excludes the Sheriff's Department. They post on their own website. So corrections and sheriff's deputies are down there. So, and of those 8, 5 are over 30 days old. So 3 of them are within the last 30 days. That's actually kind of a higher number for us. We've been hitting about maybe 1 a month for new openings. So 3 is, it's interesting, the older ones are falling off and we're getting more current ones. Similar to that or related to that is the new hire orientation last week that was held last Wednesday. We had 14 attendees, which is a high number for us, and 6 of those were corrections officers. So it's good to see them filling their positions.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hunter?
Thank you. Nita, got a question. Did you participate in Representative House's job fair?
Which was my next item.
Oh,
yes,
sorry.
I did.
I'm sorry.
I was at the Knights of Columbus Hall on June 14th. In addition to myself, 2 corrections officers attended with me to represent their department. And we were there and talked. It was interesting to talk to even other employers and get their take and see what they're seeing in addition to what we're seeing. Saw a few new college graduates. I had less feedback at our table this time, but we had fewer positions to post. So it's better when you have a wide variety. We had like corrections there, probation opening, several attorneys. Those are, you know, really at a job fair, we rarely get feedback there. We didn't have any attorneys looking for those positions. We had 3 clerical positions, 1 in circuit clerk, county clerk, and probation. So lots of feedback there. So interesting group. A lot of people who don't know what they want to do. They just want a job. So we try to help them out. So there was that. I think kind of a good crowd. We'll see if anything comes of that. We did have, by the time I got back here, Kelly had asked me if I had talked to a certain name and I couldn't remember the name. And she said, well, I got an email back already with an application and they wanted to go to probation, county clerk, and circuit clerk. And I said, yes, then it is somebody I talked to. So by the time I got back here, we had somebody that applied to those 3 clerical positions. So that's a good thing, little enthusiasm. So that is the HR recruiting side of things. Next is the public defender annual salary, right? Is that what's next?
That's next, yeah.
Okay, so we did receive from the Department of Revenue the annual salary reimbursement COLA notice for the state's attorney. So the state's attorney is set, and then based on that salary is the public defender's salary. And that is the one that we are asking for a resolution to change that salary and increase that by 4.6% COLA rate that the state has determined is the appropriate level. As it the public defender salary is 90% of the state's attorney's annual salary, and if we approve this salary range, then the state will reimburse 2/3 of it. So the county's portion is an increase from $56,625 to $59,230, so about $2,604 if we agree to this. If we do not approve that salary rate, then the county needs to fund 100% of it. So obviously, we're incentivized to agree to this.
Motion? Mr. Hess? Mr. Hess, was that a motion to approve or deny? Mr. Hess, was that a motion? Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. Second, let's go with Mr. Featherling on this one. Any questions about that? Ms. Weber?
Could you identify the exact salary that we're talking about for each one?
Right, so for the salary for the state's attorney is $197,436.44. And the public defender is $177,692.80.
Thank you.
That's the total salary.
They're both listed on your sheet, thank you.
Yes.
And what you said is that if we approve this motion, the state will reimburse
2/3.
2/3 of both
Yes.
salaries.
Do you know if those include stipends? Or is that?
No, it
No.
does not.
Okay, because I know that when we have to put stuff on websites now, it has to include stipends.
Right, and the resolution that we write for the public defender one now has a line in there, a whereas for the stipend as well.
Yeah.
So,
All county-wides get that little extra from the state. Is that us, or is it through our payroll, but is that reimbursable? Stipends?
the stipend is paid by the state, but what we bear is the cost of IMRF and the taxes.
Right.
So we put it into our payroll system, then back it out, so we just bear the tax implications.
Any other questions? So we had, yes, sir.
Very thorough, Anita. Very thorough.
Thank you.
We have a motion in a second, right? Roll call vote?
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker? Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Hunter?
Aye.
Ms. Foster? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Mr. Alexander Hildebrand? Motion carries.
All right.
Okay, lastly is changes to the county's VESA policy. The VESA policy is a state law for victims of sexual assault that has been in place since 2003, which requires employers to allow unpaid time off for employees that are victims of sexual assault to perhaps file a restraining order, perhaps move out of their house, whatever, take care of, address those issues. So it is not a guarantee of paid time off, but it allows them to retain their position while they take time off to take care of these. Changes were made in that law, and you can see that there on your tablet, should be all there. Really increasing it to any crime of violence. It changed a lot of the language to include any gender violence, but it also includes violence of any kind to either an employee or an employee's family member. There's a lot of discussion in the changes about what constitutes a family member, and you can see that there. The other big change in here is if you go back to the last page, I think it's the last page. Yeah. There's a big section on what is a reasonable accommodation. There's a lot of language in the law about a reasonable accommodation that an employer is required to provide in these cases. So.
Is there any questions, I guess? Well, let's go with a motion to approve because it is state law. Ms. Weber, second. Mr. Long. I'm sure it's in the state law. Is there a definition of violence? You see where I'm going there? Is like, what does the state define violence as? Words, you know, being yelled at. And I'm not trying to mock anything. I think we should know the line, you know.
There isn't really,
Like the charges were filed, or I mean,
well, no, not necessarily, but if you look, it's more a definition, it's more defined by, if you look right under the first page, it's what are the things you can allow time off for. So it would be seeking medical attention, obtaining services from a victim service organization, attaining psychological or other counseling, participating in safety planning, temporary or permanently relocating, and seeking legal assistance. So it would be something that requires those activities.
gotcha. That's good. That helps. It helps. They're
Right.
getting help, and that's what we want. You know, I don't want to inadvertently make a mistake, you know, based on, you know, the charges have to be filed and then all this applies, or, you know what I mean? Doesn't seem like that's the case. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions, please? Voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Under administrative, we have a couple of reappointments or possible appointments. The first two items, I would take a motion to combine and approve Mr. Carrico and Mr. Skosma. Is there a motion there, Mr. Featherling, Mr. Long? Any questions, thoughts? I'll read them into the record. Reappointment of Antonio Carrico to the Kankakee County Board of Health. Reappointment of John Skosma Jr. to the St. Anne Fire Protection District. All those in favor? Yes, sir.
Just a comment. I really do appreciate the chairmanship of the Health Department, Antonio Carrico. He has been very informative, and he provides quality leadership. He has made a lot of the corrective actions in the department to the benefit of the health department. And without being redundant, I do appreciate the feedback and reports that he's provided to many of us regarding the activities of the health department and diversity, inclusion, subject matters, and the scope of services have been the hallmark of Chairman Carrico, and I just would encourage all of my fellow board members to vote affirmatively for Mr. Carrico.
Okay.
Lunch had Tucci's, right?
Was it B-back? Sorry, that was more. No. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we do have something. We have 3 open spots for members at large with 4 applicants. So per county, the county code, and we just did this a month or 2 ago, we have the opportunity to interview potential applicants before that the motion is made, and then it goes to the full board. Reminding that it's the chairman makes the appointment at the advising consent of the board. This is the advising consent part. And so I guess we have, I believe, 3 of the 4 applicants here to answer any questions. And so I would, if there are specific questions for Mr. Johannick, Ms. Panazzo, or Mr. Gustafson, please, you can direct those. You can ask the same question of all 3. You know, to answer, we have the microphone in the back. They can, you know, take turns, whatever. Obviously, we can't ask questions of the person who's not here. So if anybody wants to kick that off, that's fine. I have a couple, but I'll defer to the committee until that time. Feel free. Yes, Mr. Hunter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I had an extensive discussion with member Rosemary Foster and Chairman regarding Yvette Rose. You look at her credentials, they're impeccable, and I think she'd be an asset to the board. And she hails presently from Olivet, has an impeccable work history, and she espouses inclusion, diversity, and if I could, Mr. Chairman, I would like, to vote on them singularly, and I would move to approve the appointment of Yvette Rose.
Okay, and we would vote singularly. I would say just if we get to the end and 3 of the 4 slots have been filled, then we stop. You see where I'm going with that? We won't even, the 4th person won't even be heard because we would have already appointed 3.
Second.
That was at the advice, the state's attorney said to do it that way. So that is, I'm just letting everybody know that we called up there and said, how do we do this? So it's fair. And that was the answer that came back. Mr. Carrico?
Chairman,
Point of order, I made a motion.
There's a motion on the floor, right? Is there a second, Ms. Foster? Okay, Mr. Carrico. Point taken, Mr. Hunter.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to say a few things here, not as exactly as a county board member here, but as the chairman of the Kankakee Board, the Board of Health. And I appreciate the great words and the nice words from, Hunter there. Thank you very much for that. So I just like to say that as the chairman for the Board of Health, I'd like to just start with a little bit of the purpose of the Board of Health, which in that case is to maintain a well-organized, financed, health department. The goals are make sure citizens have access to a broad and continuum of a community base and service to protect, maintain, and to promote the biopsychosocial health and well-being of the community. So, as the chairman, I have had the experience to work with the current board members, and I have to say I'm not here to go on behalf of one or the other. I just want to speak on behalf of my experience as being the chairman and also working with them. I find that every single person in that board is well qualified in their professional arena. We have a very good representation when it comes to diversity. I have no question regarding to their qualifications when it comes to what they do professionally. And it's just, will be up to this board, and I will definitely support whatever the board will decide to do. However, I have no complaints whatsoever. And then it's one of the duties that I have as the chairman is to make suggestion for any member to be removed according to any situation that is not in favor of the mission of the Board of Health. And then I will do that if it comes to that position. However, at this time, I just have to say that I have no objections to any behavior of anybody or the way that anything is going when it comes to the Board of Health meetings and their mission and their participation when it comes to making decisions. Thank you, sir.
Any other comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Fairfield.
I would like to request that if we could, the 3 that are here, give us a short bio of them, of what their experience is.
That's what I'm wrestling with in my head. A motion was made that's on the floor about one of the applicants, but they are not here. And the 3 that are here have not been questioned yet and had questions asked of them. I find that unfair to the 3. But the motion's on the floor as it is. That is a legal motion and a legal second. So that, I think I would say that I understand your point.
Well, I still believe that I should be able to hear their qualifications, even though she's not here. The other three are here.
Mhm.
I feel I should be able to, it's not their fault that she's not here.
It's problematic, to say the least. And then we made sure that we consulted the state's attorney's office for how this would go. We were hoping to question and then motions be made, but that didn't happen. So we will definitely be able to ask any questions of the three that are here, but only when the floor allows that. The only motion for consideration right now is the applicant or the motion on to appoint Yvette Rose. And that's procedural. I cannot change that.
Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much again for acknowledging me. I'm not here in an adversarial role regarding with respect to the comments that Chairman Carrico made, and I do applaud the presence of those individuals who are here this morning. As I just indicated, my particular motion was for Ms. Rose, and I'd appreciate the action being taken regarding her name for consideration and appointment to the Health Department. Again, not being redundant, I have no axe to grind regarding any of the individuals who are presently on the board, and they're well qualified as Chairman Carrico has indicated. My motion was to appoint Yvette Rose. I'd call for the question.
Well, we'd have to give everybody else first time.
Okay.
And if there is no first time, Mr. Featherling and then Ms.
I know it's a procedure thing, and you got to go by the rules, and I don't know if Steve understood what we were going to do here today, but I really don't want to vote for or against anybody until I hear from all of them. So I'm going to vote no against Steve, which I don't usually do, but I want to hear the rest of them. So if anyone else feels that way with me, then I don't want to have Steve get his motion voted down, but I got to talk to all of them first.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts, questions, comments about this applicant or the process?
Do you know why Ms. Rose is not here?
I was not contacted. I know she was, but I don't know. Was there a response? There was no response about attendance today from Ms. Rose.
Because I know she teaches at Olivet, and I didn't know if she had class or something. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Summertime.
Yeah.
There's nobody there.
So, yes, Ms. Parker, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it, because of that motion that's on the floor, is it acceptable then for one of us to make a comment about one of the people who are applying?
I think we should keep it focused to the applicant at hand. I don't think it's,
We can't go past.
we can't go past this because the motion was made on the floor. You can discuss, as Mr. Featherling did, for similar reasons,
Right.
but that's you know, which is well within your rights to do so, but I don't think it's quite fair to, you know.
Okay.
Any other thoughts?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to table this until you have all 4 interviews. And I believe that if Yvette isn't here, that's the first name, Yvette Rose, maybe we should have her come.
Well, I would say that other people took days, time from their day and are here right now.
Yeah, to be interviewed.
Absolutely.
Yes, so I think that part, I don't
shows.
think we should schedule something else separate for somebody.
Yeah.
We could have Zoomed, we could have taken a letter, we could have, you know, anything could have been here.
Yeah.
We have an application with qualifications, and by the way, each and every one of these folks are qualified. I mean, you know, I'm not gonna get into their specifics, but each one operates in an area that the health department operates in. So,
Okay.
we have a phone, please. Silence that. Thank you. Alrighty, so we're back to this now. We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve. And then we could move on from there. Oh, you had a motion to table.
Table.
And that's not debatable. Do we have a second? Mrs. Weber, this motion is to table this until we get through the interviews, and then you can have a motion to take something off the table at that point. All right? Let's do voice vote. All those in favor of tabling until we do the interviews?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
It passes. Okay, now we can ask questions of the three applicants that are here. Okay? The deck has been cleared.
Okay.
Clarification,
Yes, sir.
clarification on the motion table, I thought the appointments were tabled.
No, just the one motion that was on the floor was tabled.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, just the one.
Because I
And then we could
suggested if you
circle
could-
back. Yeah.
That's fine.
And I appreciate that willingness because the motion didn't allow us to interview anybody else. So,
What's really interesting is that, we vote on appointments, all the time, but very rarely have I ever heard of interviews for the appointments.
Yeah.
I mean, since I've been here, I've never heard of you doing an oral interview of suggested appointments, but be that as it may. We'll have to do
and
it.
Terry could speak to that. We had to look it up because we've never had competition. It's like getting, what do they say, an act of Congress to get someone to serve on a board.
Yes.
And we've never, up until the last few months, we haven't had competing applicants for the same positions. The whole time I've been on the board, we had never done this process since 2012.
That's right.
And so we didn't even know it existed until it was called out by somebody who was, upset with the process, and as they should have been, because prior to, I think it was 2008, this is what they did, 2009. So we looked, it was in the county code. This is the process. Somewhat cumbersome, uncomfortable, but it is. So, now let's start with questions that anybody here can ask of all three candidates that you may want to get an answer out of all three candidates that are in the room right now. So maybe start with there. If you have a question that you think all three candidates for this position that are present should answer, you can ask that question. You can ask one person one of the questions. You can ask them anything. I think it's fair to ask them all the same questions. They have the same opportunity. So if the microphone is right back there if you want to decide who goes when and where. Ms. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the criteria, I would hope, is food safety that the health department is responsible for. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to have Mr. Johannick explain his background in food safety and training that he has had.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I've been in the restaurant business since I was 15. I'm 60. So I've worked with a lot of big corporations. I am certified ServSafe instructor. I hate to say food safety is my passion, but it really is. I own 2 restaurants. Currently, Jimmy Joe's Barbecue in Bourbonnais. I do think it's an important part for the health department. Not only, there's a lot of times where I'll get calls from other restaurants with questions, and I can either direct those to John or answer them myself. So I do have pretty extensive background in food safety.
As a follow-up, is there anybody else on the board that is from the food industry, if you will?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's
Neely owns a restaurant.
That's right, I forgot about that. So in terms of the role of the health department, I think that's what you were getting at. Okay. Ms. Pedazzo, did you want to maybe answer that from a restaurant perspective, or the same type of question, role of the health department?
Sure. So my husband and I, we've been Open the Village Grill in Bradley in 2002. So I was pretty involved with that. I'm not so much now because I'm a nurse practitioner in the community, so I don't have enough hours to be involved so much with the restaurant business. But food safety has been big for us, and very important part of the health department. So.
Thanks. Mr. Carrico.
Yes. I have a question actually for Ms. Pinazzo. We have something in the bylaws which states something about the investigating the existence of any contagious or infectious disease and adopt some measurements that we could to prevent and help with any outbreaks or any other things. So in your capacity, professional capacity, what could you say that you can bring to the board when it comes to this little portion of the bylaws, which would be one of the duties of the board member, in order to help with any investigation of contagious diseases within the county?
Sure. So I've been a registered nurse since '97. I'm a family nurse practitioner that specializes in geriatrics for the last 7 years. Worked through the latest pandemic of COVID. So worked closely when I was working with the nursing home with regards to infection control. Was on the front lines of that and modifying what we could do, especially in the nursing home capacity, which was really hit hard with regards to the PPE, the infection. So I think I have not only that, I've worked in the hospital systems and the ICUs and the ERs, which with infections such as MRSA, C. diff, tuberculosis once in a great while. So I think that experience helps me bring to the table what we do to control it within an environment and where we go from there. I do a lot of research on my own time and stay up to date, up to current date of protocols, constantly researching those things. So I think my 20 plus years of nursing and now as a provider, I have a good experience that I think I could bring to the table at the health department.
Thank you. Ready? Other questions, please. Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On these boards, on several of the boards that I serve on, the problem that we run into is people think it sounds like a great idea to volunteer for these programs and serve on these boards, but sometimes it doesn't work out time-wise for the individual. I'd like to hear from all three individuals about their commitment, and do they have enough time to serve, especially if we get into another pandemic or something like that where we need their resource more often. Can they each kind of address that?
Sure, and then also maybe and also discuss, if you were on the Board of Health during the pandemic, what attendance was like and the actions. Maybe that might be a good together.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, because there'd be evidence, because all three were on the board, I believe, during that time period. So
thank you.
Please, one at a time.
I've been on the board over 6 years. In the last 2 years, I've missed possibly one meeting. So I think John, if he were here, could attest to my attendance has been excellent. During the pandemic, we met, not Zoom, but we did telephone meetings. And as soon as we were able to get back to meeting safely, we did. So my commitment's there. I have the time. Typically it's once a month for the meeting.
This is my first term, so I don't have any trouble getting to the meetings once in a while if I'm on vacation, but we are able to Zoom. That was one of the things that we did implement not that long ago, being able to Zoom. so that we aren't going to miss any meetings, but I definitely have the time. I work locally, my restaurant's local, I work within the community, so you know, if there's any special meetings that have to happen, I am available, so I don't have any problem with that and committed to serve the community.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rod Gustafson. I've been on the board for 8+ years. I was president for 2 years. I'm on the finance committee, and I represented the board during the negotiations with the union. I enjoy being on there, and I'm, like I said, a registered nurse, licensed in effect, and I've spent 15 years, take that back, 35 years at Riverside Hospital as a nurse. So, any questions for me? Thank you.
Any other questions from Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, information. How many members are on the board now? 9. Okay. Is that etched in granite in terms of your bylaws? What would it take to expand the ranks of the board in terms of the numbers? You know? Is that established by ordinance, work rules, or what?
I'm trying to understand your question and regarding to expansion of the board.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is the composition, the number mandated by resolution, your rules, et
It's
cetera?
based on the bylaws.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, we have 9 members, which 2 of them should be a physician, which we have 3 at the moment. It's required that we have at least 2 physicians, but we have 3 at the moment. And then 1 board member, which should be from the board, the Kankakee County board. And then the remaining would be 5 at large. So in order to add another member, then we'll have to vote to, you know, implement that into the bylaw.
Well,
I would say that there might be a lot more involved than just that because of the way that the referendum was floated to establish the health department. I don't know the language there, but it may have said, I know it's in our county code, so we'd have to change all of our county code stuff, but the way that the referendum's floated, it may have been tied to a certain member board. See, like, and you have to have a dentist and MD, you know, that kind of stuff. But we can get you an answer. I don't think we can get it right now. Yeah, it's going to take some look.
But yeah, the reason why I pose that question, it seems like, man, we have some very highly competent and qualified individuals here, and I was just looking for some out of the box. You know, solution to this, because everybody who is being considered has substantial skill sets, and you know, I was just hoping for a solution to not have an odd person out, you know.
Yeah, I think that I've read their bylaws, it's been a while, but I think they can establish advisory committees and things like that. If they want to talk about either marketing or community penetration and things like that, they can pull together ad hoc committees. But to your point, I'm not really sure. It would take some more looking into.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yes, according to Mr. Hunter's question, that has to be in concurrence with the county code, which is the 55 ILCS 5-5. So that is the county and multiple county health department code. Now, as a little bit what Mr. Chairman said on the subcommittees, there's nothing that can hold us from, or the president of the health department, to appoint anyone from outside of the Board of Health to be part of the subcommittees. So we have several different options when it comes to subcommittee, like for an instance, Dental Advisory Committee, Environmental Health Committee, medical services, nurse advisory committee, all of those committees can actually be created, and we can also bring other dedicated and qualified individuals from the community into those committees.
Thank you.
We got a problem, but it's a good problem. Everybody, it's like, you know, trying to raise the dead to get people to serve on boards, and now that we've got more than enough, it becomes an issue on how we're gonna handle that, so, more than enough qualified people. So, question, yes.
Yeah. When we take all our, these committees we have the Regional Planning Commission, we had an attendance problem there, you know, so we kind of trimmed it down a little bit. I believe that's still in place, right? You can change that back.
Correct.
Yeah, and making the board bigger, going to 10 is kind of a weird thing because of voting and stuff, right? And odd numbers and all.
Usually want odd numbers, but yeah.
And I served on a zoning board of appeals for, I think it was 17 years, 18 years before I became on the county board. And I got interviewed two times for that position. I didn't get it the first time. There was 20 realtors out in the hallway that were interviewing for that one. If you remember, Mike Bosser was the chairman and stuff. And then I got interviewed the second time, and there was 3 of us that came. We had all never done it before. I mean, I did it with Mantino for 5 or 6 years before I came to here. So, but what I'm saying is that we got to show some loyalty and some compassion to people that show up for minimal amount of money on Tuesday night or whatever night the meeting is. I don't recall, for 8-10 years, and then there's one open spot or something, and then have them get booted off the board that's been there for a long time. And we gotta, I really believe we need to show some loyalty to those boards, because I was involved in trying to keep a board together and get people involved, and you couldn't get anybody to even interview for a zoning board of appeals position. I was chairman, we couldn't get anybody to fill spots. So, you know, I don't know. I think we have to show loyalty to the people that are there now and been coming for 8 years or however many years, 1 year, a couple of years, or one term. So, I mean, it's up to everybody else, but.
First time first. I want to make sure everybody has a chance first time. We'll go back to second time. Mr. Hunter.
New math, final comment. You're saying it's kind of weird in terms of bouncing it up to 10. There are 28 individuals on this county board, even number. Even number, Kankakee City Council, 14. So I'm not so sure it's weird per se. It's just whatever, you know, the code or the ordinances indicate. So that's all. I was looking for some solution, because it seems like all these candidates have a panoply of skill sets, credentials, and are being considered for this very, very important board. So that's all I was saying, John, is that, you know, I'm not so sure that if it's an even number it's weird. It's just a situation of whatever the code or the ordinances or the rules or laws indicate in terms of the number of board members.
Last, final time? Then we'll go to Mr. Carrico. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, again. Okay, just clarification. When Ms. Rose was contacted, was there any response from her knowing that there might be an interview or selection today? Did she respond at all to any of the emails or letters that were sent to her?
The word might doesn't apply. Will would be the word. Will happen today. And was there a reply? No reply.
No reply. Okay, you answered my question. There you go.
Mr. Carrico, last time.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Now, as I continue, maybe implementing a little bit more into Mr. Hunter just said, I will be totally open to, in the future, to look into the possibility of increasing by one more member, if that is something that can be done according to the county code. For the fact that, let me tell you a little bit what happens the last meeting that we had this month. I came to a few hours before the meeting. I was contacted that a possibility not to having enough members coming in due to some conflict of schedule and not be able to vote on important things that we had to vote on. Now, then one of the members had some personal family health issues, and that was one of the reasons that that individual was not going to be there. However, within about 45 minutes or so before the meeting, I was contacted by that member, said, I will be there, I'll make way to do it. And that person went around, even in having some personal issues, and went to the meeting, and we had enough people attending to actually go through the voting process, everything that we had on the agenda. So I saw a lot of commitment when it comes to those individuals that, for no pay position, came to the meeting and getting around even with personal issues. So I would be totally open to the possibility in the near future, if that is okay with the county code, to implement or changing that to increase the number, because it will facilitate my work, as long as I'm still the chairman, to have enough people to vote on whatever is necessary.
Excuse me. I just had a phone call. This is Dr. Polk. I just had a phone call from Mrs. Rose. Someone had called her. She said no one ever contacted her about this meeting. She says, and if they did, they called at Olivet. She's not at Olivet in the summer. So I told her that I would get back to the board and tell them that.
She was
'Cause I don't
emailed to
think
the
we knew that
email.
nobody-
She was emailed as all the others were to the email on their application. All others received
Okay, that
the
was
same
probably
email.
bad.
Yeah, I don't know where,
Okay.
whatever the email was on the application.
Yeah, her personal address is here. Her personal address is here.
Mr. Long, yes, go ahead, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, the issue here is we have a very qualified person in front of us that's not here to speak to today. So could we move on with our business, but somehow or another convey to Ms. Rose that in the future, when there is an opening, because these boards change and there are openings that come, that on the next time around that we definitely put her on our radar, because of the connection with Olivet and her education level and her dedication to public health.
That would be a positive outcome to an unfortunate situation. I don't want any other way to say it. I mean, I don't like letting good people slide through the cracks, especially
They're hard to find.
when we need more people pulling on that end of the rope out there, you know? To use two cliches within 5 seconds of each other. Sorry. So anybody else? Okay, are you, one more?
Yeah, I was gonna do a second time thing here. Mr. Carrico stated that he has, he puts together committees for individual things, and I didn't know if we could have a, you know, a list for Ms. Rose to come and maybe get appointed on one of those committees, get a little.
We don't do that.
I thought he said that
They do that.
They do that. I mean,
They have their own board.
That's their own domain.
Yeah,
All
but
we
I mean,
do is appoint to their board,
Right,
and they make their own
Yeah.
bylaws and all of that stuff.
one word mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, but still.
Well, it's kind of a big one.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so Mr. Carrico did state that they could put together a committee for COVID response or, you know, something like that.
Whatever.
And they can call them in off of someone off a list and get a little experience on the board, and go from there.
All right. So I guess now at this point, the floor is open for motions.
I think we got. We
No.
tabled, Mr. Hunter's was tabled, right?
Right, exactly. So now the floor is open for motions. So what is the desire of the committee? I'll go with Mr. Carrico first.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. What I like to do is, with respect to all the candidates or the applicants for this, since we got to the decision here, or got to the final position of ending all the questions, I would like to make a motion to combine all the three members, combine and reappoint all three members present here today.
There's a motion. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Mr. Featherling said second. Discussion on that motion. Do you know when the next appointment comes up, in case anybody's asking for health department? Is that a year from now?
Next year,
Next year?
yes. June 2024.
And I'm sure that person has been to a lot of meetings and is highly qualified as well. You see, not liking this. Okay, we have a motion and a second for the combined group of the three. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Polk?
I abstain.
I'm sorry, we're compelled to vote by county code. I have to advise that. There's no abstention
Okay.
unless it's a conflict, and I am sorry, but it's in our county code. I have to compel board members to vote. We'll pass for now. We'll give you a second.
She said
Aye, she said aye,
said aye.
okay.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Hunter?
Let me say this, and I'm gonna preface my vote on this. I mean, what I'm hearing is a willingness for future consideration for Ms. Rose. And I have not heard any adverse comments regarding any of the applicants and the candidates for consideration. And in the spirit of camaraderie, I will enjoin myself to vote for the maker of the motion, to concur with his motion, and I'll vote aye.
Ms. Foster?
I'm gonna vote aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
I'm gonna vote aye as well. I don't want to discourage people from applying to boards. And I want to make sure that the health department's mission goes to communities where it is desperately needed. So I'm gonna vote aye, but I would like to see Mr. Carrico, if there's a way that we can involve with obviously with Ms. Rose, if she is compelled and wants to still be involved, figure out a place that her skill set, which is vast, and something that is needed, could be applied at the health department.
I agree.
I just don't see anything that would say we don't want to reappoint the people that are there. And I do see things that says we do want to appoint the person who's applying now. So I'm completely ripped in half. Does that make any sense at all? Without discouraging people. So Terry, do you have any comment as far as the way we've done things? Are we, it's a very strange situation. I want to make sure we're doing things the right way.
I mean, I don't have any comment with the way the interview process is going, because that's what the county code says. But at this point, there's a motion, the vote was called, so that's what should be going on. We should be voting and not having further discussion. And looking at the county code, every member is required to vote. Whichever way they vote, they have to have a vote.
Right. Unless of a direct conflict with a family member or something like
Correct.
that. Yeah.
But I think at this point, it should just be limited to a vote and not a further discussion on the issue.
Well, by virtue of somebody prefaces their vote, you consider that a discussion?
Yes. I do.
Yes.
Well, that's your opinion.
Okay, well, that's why I'm here.
But everybody's got an opinion, so.
What do you know? A lawyer with an opinion. Who'd have thought? Who knew? Yeah. Billable hours, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Huh? I thought I was the last one.
Not a word.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Alexander Hildebrand? Aye. Motion carries.
Sorry, I thought I was the last one, so I apologize for that. And Matt, to you as well. All right, so maybe can we get a report next executive meeting? What has happened as a result of this from either you or John or both? I'd like to see quick progress, a quick reach out to this individual.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. A few openings, McGilvery Special Drainage District, Forest Preserve District Board, Cabry Area Fire Protection District, Essex Township Fire Protection District, and then 5 openings on the Ethics Commission. Under new business, we have the SAQ agreement extension. It's the same agreement that we had before. We just changed the date to be at the end of the next session, because we usually take these in the 2-year blocks. Steve would be with us until this end of the next legislative session, which is 24, as it says in here. So I'll entertain a motion on that. Is it Mr. Long? A second? Anywhere, Mr. Featherling? Any questions for me or Steve? Carol?
Thank you. Excuse me, the rate of the contract is the same, it's just extension of time?
Correct, yeah. We hadn't changed the rate at all, it was just extension.
2 years.
Yeah, it was another year and a half, yeah. Because we'll go through veto and then the next whole thing, and hopefully what we've achieved this session, at least getting things on the radar, will be realized the next one, so. This would be, unless there's any questions, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Polk?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Hunter?
Aye.
Ms. Foster? Aye. Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Mr. Alexander Hildebrand? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Carrico, and I don't know, maybe in a discussion with Mr. Hunter, you guys may, and obviously John, ombudsman, somebody who acts on the benefit of the community with the interactions with the health department, that might be a very fine role of connecting somebody to the health department, the 2 communities, if you will. Just throwing that out there, because that's an independent role that their main goal is to make sure everything is flowing. The information, the services, everything. I don't know how you feel about that, Mr. Beavis, but I'm Mr. Hunter, but you'd have to talk to Mr. Beavis about it, you know. So, all right. We have any old business, new business?
Yeah, just old business of 2 or 3 minutes ago. Counselor, let me just say this to you in terms of a commentary prior to a person's vote is appropriate. It wasn't discussion per se, because the matter was before us, the vote. And I prefaced my vote by my commentary as opposed to discussion. So I just want to let you know what the rationale was for me making those comments. I've seen that done forever and a day in terms of governmental bodies. So it wasn't a discussion, because the matter before us was John's motion, or whoever made the motion. It was commentary prefacing my vote.
All right, new, old, motion to adjourn.
I have a question.
Sure, Ms. Polk, and then we'll take the other.
Okay. Okay. I would like to know, do you know when the people are gonna get their ARPA funds? Like New Vision, Morning Star Church,
They've
and the
already,
NAACP?
I believe many of them already have it. I think everybody has come in and signed their contracts.
They've signed their contracts, but they have not received their
Right.
money yet.
Right, we do check runs twice a month, but many have received money, actually. We did special check runs for people, and in tomorrow's finance committee meeting, we have to re-examine the New Vision Food Pantry
Amendment.
because we have to change it to allow them to us to forward the money so they can purchase the food in the freezer. So it was on reimbursement before, but they didn't have those types of infrastructure to support it. So I would say what most of them are either in process or are gotten checks already, to be honest. But
Are they gonna, okay, and also I'd like to ask, are they going to be trained on how to do the GATA?
no, that's not our responsibility. The only people that are subject to GATA is, in this instance, is if they're over $50,000.
Okay.
And so that's why they applied, a good reason why New Vision would have applied with the NAACP, because the NAACP is a GATA certified organization. So we will actually be awarding money to NAACP as a pass-through for New Vision.
Right.
Okay, so that, because the feds, that's their rules. So that's why we encourage so many partnerships between the smalls and the medium-sized ones who are GATA certified. Now, the mental health training and IRIS will all follow after this. The mental health first aid training, where we have a proposal that's being drawn up for that. And we're gonna engage the community on the mental health first aid training side of things. And then also with, because our recipients have to have that training as well, and make that available to their staff, train the trainer type stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's all, there's a little more to come on that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Long, second. Ms. Weber, all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,
Aye.
same sign.